Paturi ji to give an overview of this conference. Everything has been, a lot of work has been done by him behind the scenes. He didn't want me to, just a second, I have to, give me a minute. I'll just give a brief introduction, though he doesn't want me to do that. So Nagaraj ji is an institution in himself. He has been trained in, his father is the inspiration for him. So I already consider him to be a polymath and a polyglot. And he says his father was a hyper polymath and hyper polyglot. He knew 28 languages, his father. And he knows about 10 languages. It is very, very prolific in all of them. Dr. Nagaraj Paturi is seriously committed to the transmission of Vedic sciences to the present generation. In his PhD thesis, which was in 1998, University of Hyderabad, he developed an Indic model of myth criticism of literature. And in his MPhil, which was in 1987, University of Hyderabad, he foregrounded Vakya Padya as the theoretical foundation of the Ashtadhyayi. In addition to over 50 publications and about 60 conference workshops, seminar workshop papers, Dr. Paturi has designed several courses pertaining to the contemporary applications of Vedic sciences and has been successfully teaching them and getting them taught. Formerly Senior Professor of Cultural Studies, Flames School of Communication, and a visiting professor, University of Chicago, Dr. Paturi is currently Senior Director and Chief Curator at Indica, a distinguished professor, curriculum designer, executive committee member, Board of Studies, MIT School of Vedic Sciences in Pune, Maharashtra, member Board of Studies at Kavikula Guru Kalidasa Sanskrit University, and Rashtram School of Public Leadership. He is also editor-in-chief of International Journals of Studies in Public Leadership and is a member of the Advisory Council of Veda Vijnana Shodha Samsthanam in Bangalore. And he has provided consultancy to numerous cultural research, theatre and dance innovation projects. He has authored scores of creative writing works for classical dance, theatre and magazines. I mean, this bio can go on and on. He's really a very, very accomplished person. And I have the privilege of working alongside him to select the papers from the abstracts. And then in that process itself, I learned a lot from him. So it gives me great pleasure to ask Paturi ji to give us an overview of this conference and anything else you would like to share with us.
I wanted to give the auchitya of choosing this place to begin with in this session, and that was very well established by Professor Raj Purohit. The propriety of selecting this place. I think all of us were ecstatic when we heard him telling the significance of this place. He started with the overview of Ujjaini itself as a place, and he spoke about not just the Sthala Mahatmya, Kshetra Mahatmya of the place, but the historical significance of the place also. And then he came to the pedagogical significance of this place. So now we feel vindicated that we chose the best place in India for this conference. Sri Harikiran Vadlamani Garu, who is the founder and the funding person of Indica, is not just a funding person, an investor. He is a highly knowledgeable person. He is a voracious reader, and he contributes intellectually to the organization also, not just financially. I think you will be happy to know that all the around 30 conferences that we organized till now, this is around the 30th of the conferences, topics are chosen by him. Even this topic was chosen by him only. And he comes up with newer and newer ideas. He came up with an idea of symposium. In symposium, we invite speakers. It's not abstract sending and selecting people. The speakers are chosen by the organization, they're invited, and there is a sequence of speeches. And because of COVID, it has started as an online event and it is going on. Even today, after COVID, also symposiums are going on in an online mode. But conferences were also to be conducted online for some time during COVID. But now, because everyone is able to meet physically like this, we have come back to a physical mode. And this idea of adding Tirtha Yatra to a conference also is his innovation only. He thought we have to add Tirtha Yatra to each of our conferences. This is where exactly the objective of Indica gets achieved. The ideas of conferences, symposiums, and all these academic events, which are generally university activities, in this country, unfortunately, because of the post-independent Indian educational history, university system has become so much antagonistic towards our traditional cultural roots such as Tirtha Yatras. So if a university announces a conference, you cannot imagine a university to be organizing a Tirtha Yatra with a conference. Only Indica can do that. And only Indica can gather presenters like this who will not be restricted by those imagined university research methodological restrictions. And unfortunately, what is happening in the university system, I deliberately used the word imagined restrictions. We are in this conference going to have a topic on Tantra Yuktis also, which is actually its origin is in Ayurveda. But it's so amazing that though they created it for Ayurveda, the way they articulated research methodology in Tantra Yuktis is so broadly applicable to across the disciplines to all the university disciplines. And if you go inside a university system, no one tells you that there was a research methodology developed in ancient India which is applicable across the disciplines. And even if someone comes up with such a topic inside the university system, it is opposed at every step. Departmental committee meeting, your colleagues will be opposing it. It goes to the school board, other departments will come and talk. Academic council, all other departments will come. Executive council, senate, wherever you go, you have to cross so many hurdles. I am sure at some step it will be cancelled. I am sure. At some step, such topics will definitely get cancelled. That is such a sorry state of affairs. And when people look at the profiles of our presenters in our conferences, they usually get surprised that these people mostly don't come from the universities. One or two from the university system, mostly these have a corporate background or some non-university background. Why this is happening? All because the university system has gone to dogs. An alternative had to emerge. And it is the organic nature of a society that when it feels the urge, it creates an alternative. And the Indian society has created this alternative of systems like Indica, where they can accommodate these non-university scholars. Let me share with you, you will all be proud that the rigor of the papers in our conferences, in Indica conferences, is sending jitters to the university conferences. It is evident from some of the articles that were published in the non-Hindu, anti-Hindu media called The Hindu. There was a news article, one journalist was lamenting that, "Arey baap re, we always focused on this university, but these technology people, engineering background people, MBA background people, these have all come up. They are talking what we wanted to avoid. And unfortunately, because these people have science background, engineering background, technology background, they are using all their logical abilities, rationalist abilities to talk about these things more rigorously than we do in JNU or University of Hyderabad or Delhi University or any such places." And such lamentations are very sweet to my ears. There is a Telugu movie, it has gone into other South Indian languages also, called Maya Bazaar. In that there is this character Ghatotkacha. Though he is a Rakshasa born to Hidimba of Bhima, he is on the positive side, he is on the hero side, Pandava side. So when the villain side, the Duryodhana side, gets weeping, crying because of the troubles that he puts them to, he says, "It is so sweet to hear. The lamentations of the enemies are so sweet to hear. For me, the lamentations of the university system are sweet to hear." Because the social sciences and humanities in the present university system has gone like that. Do you know one big lamentation they have now? It is that there is an Indic knowledge systems division started under AICTE of Government of India. It's a big surprise, not just to our social sciences and humanities people, to Indologists also. They're all saying, "What is this IKS? They have come up with this IKS, and they are doing very big things out of this." Professor Ganti Suryanarayan Murthy Garu has been given the charge of organizing this Indic Knowledge Systems Division. I don't know how many of you know that it has received such a big traction today that it has spread all over Indian universities, particularly engineering colleges and other places. But we are very happy and proud that IKS is one of the collaborators of this conference, and Vikram University, particularly Vikram Shodh Samsthan here, is also one of the collaborators. So there is this auchitya that this conference is IKS conference. IKS Division of Government of India is joining us, and Professor Raj Purohit showed us the place auchitya. Kshemendra, in his Auchitya Vichara Charcha, in his list of 27 Auchityas, he lists Desha Auchitya. There, his idea in Alankara Shastra is Auchitya in the description of a Desha inside the Kavya, but here there is a Desha Auchitya as the venue of a conference. We have a Desha Auchitya in this. And the IKS division and Indic Academy, this meeting place, I should tell you that even before Professor Ganti was given the charge of this IKS division, it was Indic Academy which started this IKS activity. We were already conducting our events on IKS in various ways. Probably some other organizations were also doing. Chinmaya University, Shri Shri University, Chanakya University, all this. But we were the pioneers. Indica was the pioneer in IKS activity. As an individual, I'm very glad to share with you that myself and Professor Sai Susarla were the first to use the word Indic knowledge systems. When we were given the opportunity at MIT School of Vedic Sciences in Pune, in Maharashtra, Professor Vishwanath Karad wanted to start a Veda Vyasa School of Vedic Sciences there. There we used this word Indic knowledge systems, and when Government of India took it up as part of National Education Policy NEP 2020, we were very happy. Actually, we were consulted also as part of this IKS, Indic knowledge systems activity. Today, before this conference was discussed and we started discussing with you, that created a problem. For example, when we announced a conference on the spread of IKS to the other parts of the world, unfortunately, our co-curator probably titled it as Contribution of India in terms of IKS to the world. So we received 46 abstracts. Among them, 40 were talking about just IKS contribution, not its communication to the other parts of the world. Because they thought whatever IKS contribution comes inside India, it's a contribution to the world only. Okay, in such a general sense, they took the word contribution of IKS to the world. So 40 of the papers were very, very good. Excellent abstracts came. But unfortunately, they were not talking about migration of IKS to the other parts of the world. In the same way, during this conference also, when we sent out this announcement, many abstracts were talking about how IKS contributes to the contemporary pedagogy. For example, I take inspiration from Taittiriya Upanishad and create a contemporary teaching methodology. But we had to insist and say that here in this conference, focus is not on contribution of IKS to pedagogy, it is contribution in pedagogy itself from India. So let us all remember throughout these 3 days that this conference is talking about pedagogy as an IKS, education as an IKS. Within these IKS discussions in various universities, when Chanakya University started also, they created a dichotomy of vocabulary, IKS and CKS. By CKS, they mean contemporary knowledge systems. By IKS, they mean traditional knowledge systems. For example, Nyaya is IKS for them, and modern logic or law or jurisprudence is CKS. So, how IKS of Nyaya gets connected to CKS of jurisprudence or legal systems is the way they discussed. But in Indica, we are not maintaining that IKS CKS difference, because for us, IKS itself means CKS. Any traditional knowledge system based, traditional Vedic knowledge system based, or traditional Indian knowledge system based, contemporary application only is IKS. So we don't maintain that dichotomy between IKS and CKS. So what is this education as an IKS? Education as a contemporary knowledge system, it is existing today. Do you all agree that there is a knowledge system called education today? What are these colleges of education? There are courses like B.Ed, which is a professional course. It is not an academic course. Bachelor of Education, Master of Education, and they have within that education schools, colleges of education, they have their own PhD within education. Coming from BEd and MEd, they go to education. So if you look at those colleges, you see that education is a contemporary knowledge system in itself. You understand? So that we are talking about. We are now focusing on what is meant by education in the contemporary knowledge systems. Let us all ponder about a few words. Educated. We generally use the word, we come across a tuk-tuk wala, our auto rickshaw wala. Say, though he was uneducated, he was speaking so much sense to me. Is he uneducated? So, from which scale are you defining to be uneducated? If he is making sense to you so much, he must be educated. What education does he have? You have to think about it. Once in my university, at the University of Hyderabad, we started a program called Study India program, which actually means sending foreign students that visit my university to Study India visits, tours. I don't know how and why, but the university thought that I am the best person to take them to all these tours. I used to regularly take them to Sri Shailam. Once my MPhil guide and my colleague at that time, that professor's wife was accompanying, just as my wife is accompanying me now, and Professor Sripada's wife is also accompanying. She also came along with us to that tour. One boat person was boating in such a great skill that the fishing nets spread there were not touched by him at all. He was taking them in such a delicate way that no fishing net was getting touched, even threads that were spread across were. And my colleague at that time, but earlier my professor, my MPhil guide who was sitting there, he is such a famous person in linguistics, and I am sitting there with PhD, and there were many PhDs sitting there. His wife was saying, hell with your PhDs. This is the PhD. His boating is the PhD. She was saying. She was able to appreciate the education in that boatsman. She was able to appreciate that is education. Cobbler's cobbling is education. Tanner's tanning is education. And 80% of India's population are agriculturists. And what about this MSc agriculture, BSc agriculture, assistant directors? They go to these farmers. I know in all these 40 years of my experience, I met many assistant directors. They all learn from these farmers. In the beginning of their careers as assistant directors with MSc in agriculture, they go sit at the feet of these farmers to learn. Who is educated there? This BSc agriculture, MSc agriculture, agriculturally educated farmer is sitting there. He is a professor, he is a PhD in agriculture. He is teaching them. And we use these words. Though that farmer was uneducated, what is this uneducated? Where is this standard of education coming to us? Today our sessions are going to start with Ankur Kakkarji's paper. He is going to tell us how Jati, the so much maligned system in India, caste is a bad word in India, is an educational system. He is going to talk about it. Ankur Kakkarji is going to talk about how caste is an educational system. Castes are in fact hereditary occupational groups. And why they have been formed as hereditary groups is because the idea was that professionalism comes. We lament when China, South Korea, all those get in Asian Games, all the prizes they win and run away. Their gymnastics training starts at their 1.5 years age, 2 years age. We pick up a girl of 20 years age, by that time the whole body is tight, no rubber in the body. And then we give gymnastics training. How can we get Asian Games or Olympics prize? They are training from their second year, you know that? In Russia, gymnastics training starts at the birth itself. That is why they run away with all the gold medals in gymnastics. So if you know that things have to start at home, by birth, from the womb, then you would believe that professionalism comes from such a training and hereditary occupational groups are the solution. That is the way nature has created all over the world. All the tribal groups all over the world are castes only. They are endogamous groups. They are hereditary occupational groups only. And the skills are starting from the mother's womb. And that was retained in India in the form of jati system. Ankur Kakkarji is going to talk about how jatis and families are all this. Professor Bijay Barova from Assam, she is a very senior professor of folklore there. She is also going to talk about how folklore, it's a bad word for us, folklore. When we want to denounce something, we say, oh, it's not all fact, it is all folklore. And for us, folklore is folk songs in the radio, All India Radio, folk songs in Doordarshan. Some rural uneducated person comes and sings some village songs. If you go, I'm a field worker. For the last 40 years, I've been visiting villages to study folklore. When I go and ask for songs from the villages, their usual response is, Sir, hum log uneducated hai. हमारा सॉन्ग तो उतना अच्छा नहीं होता है आप लोग एजुकेटेड है ना आपका सॉन्ग अच्छा होता है आई कीप टेलिंग देम दैट आई एम द मोस्ट अनएजुकेटेड फेलो बिकॉज यू हैव एजुकेशन योर सॉन्ग्स हैव एजुकेशन प्लीज एजुकेट मी थ्रू योर सॉन्ग्स राइट एंड शी इज गोइंग टू टेल अस प्रोफेसर बारुआ इज गोइंग टू टेल अस हाउ folklore genres it is such a rich area. You know why all over the world people choose folklore and folk culture studies as their area? Because it is so vast and dynamic, you can never exhaust it. In whichever other field you go, you can exhaust it and say, खत्म हो गया, history तो उज्जैनी का हिस्ट्री तो रिसर्च हो गया कंप्लीट हो गया मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ अभी कालिदास है ना कालिदास के बारे में सब लोग सब कुछ बोल चुके हैं क्या कर सकते हैं अभी कुछ बोलने का नहीं है मगर फोकलोर तो कभी नहीं खत्म होने वाला है नेवर एग्जॉस्टिबल such vast number of genres such a dynamic thing it keeps changing and that which is part of women's world homemakers world villagers world is how it is education she is going to tell us and in my own mother tongue in the modern literature there is a classical modern scholar called Vishwanatha Satyanarayana. He was a decolonizer during colonization days. We are decolonizing in post-colonial days. He was decolonizing while colonization was happening in front of him. And he, in his novels, many times makes his characters say, for example, he used to write novels against another author of that time called Chalam, who was a supporter of extramarital relationships. So because he is a dharmic person, he was arguing against such arguments in his novels. One person, one woman in that elopes with a man and that man starts abusing her, beats her. Then she talks in a very polite way to him, and then that man gets surprised and asks, "You seem to be so educated. You are controlling me, my anger, and all that. Where do you get this emotional intelligence from?" This character says, "I am studying Ramayana Mahabharata nowadays. I am getting all this education from Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now I realize what a great value those itihasas, Puranas, and Kavyas have, and they are giving me the emotional intelligence to handle such abusers like you." That is the decolonization knowledge Vishwanath Satyanarayana wanted to give to his readers. So, today in our conference, there are so many, Deepa Kiranji and Tarini Chandrasekharji, all these people, they are going to talk about how our storytelling is education. Stories have been pedagogical tools in this country. And amazingly, in which other country you tell me in the world, there are stories about pedagogy. Paramanandaya Shishyula Katha, Deepa Kiranji is going to talk about that. Tell me, Finland, Africa, South America, North America, which country? Germany, France, all these developed countries. In which country do they have a folklore, folk tales, where the topic is pedagogy? It is a story about the Guru and Shishya. It is Paramanandaya Shishyula Katha. She is going to talk about that. And Panchatantra has made a very good name all over the world today. And Panchatantra is a pedagogical story. My father used to tell me that Vishnu Sharma and Vishnu Gupta were colleagues at Takshashila University. And when Vishnu Gupta Chanakya wrote Arthashastra as a discursive book, his colleague, professorial colleague at Takshashila University, wanted to experiment with communicating the same public administration, statecraft science, through storytelling. And he did that. Through animal tales, through folk tales, he communicated 5 strategies of public administration. Statecraft. Now all over the world it is known, but people don't acknowledge that India is a country where there are folk tales about pedagogy. That is going to be discussed in our conference. So I just wanted to give a glimpse of the deviant contributions that we are going to do in this conference. Anyway, people know that we are a place of Shastras. We are going to have our own Shastra Guru, Professor Sripada Subramanian Garu. We are going to have our Vakyartha Sadas. Actually, that was an insistence from our co-curator, Srimati Sahana Singh ji. She has been hunting us. Please arrange the Vakyartha Sadas. Please arrange a Vakyartha Sadas. Indica has organized many Vakyartha Sadas earlier. We organized the biggest Vakyartha Sadas at Varanasi. It had the biggest number of Shastra scholars at Varanasi. Professor Sripada was also there in that Varanasi Vakyartha Sadas. And we organized it in Chinmaya and many places. So that we are going to organize tomorrow evening from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We are going to give you a glimpse of how Shastric debating was considered to be a continuing education for advanced Shastra learners. Not a beginner of Shastra can participate in Vakyartha Sadas. You have to be an advanced learner only. And they use in contemporary times a word called continuing education. Vakyartha Sadas is a continuing education. They hone their skills of Shastra through Vakyartha Sadas. That you are going to see how they do that tomorrow from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And there is the pariksha system, examination system as part of pedagogy. How our education examination system was there, we continued through a system called Tenali Pariksha. There is one Sri Bhagavatula Anjaneya Sharma Garu at Tenali. He himself is not a very big Shastra scholar. He is an Anjaneya Upasaka, but has a grounding in Shastra, what a Shastra is, how it has to be. He has a very clear picture. With that, he has been organizing Tenali Pariksha with such a rigor, depth and standard that today, for the last several decades, if a Shastra scholar has to be identified as the topmost, the title is he has passed Tenali Pariksha. That is the standard. And Professor Shripad Subramanian Garu is going to give the first distinguished talk today, is going to be from him. He is a Parikshaka there. He is going to share his experience of how those parikshas are conducted, how they have come from the tradition, that is also going to be covered. So we are going to have so many different facets of pedagogy and education, which a college of education in India will never cover, only Indica can cover. There is an Indian Institute of Teaching Education in Gujarat, started by Government of India. It is doing good work only. But I was asking Sri Prada, who is going to talk about Ayurveda, pedagogy in Ayurveda, whether an MBBS course in this country or MD course in this country has a sub-course, a semester course or a small course on pedagogy of medicine. Do they have? But Ayurveda has pedagogy of medicine. She is going to talk about it. So we have pedagogy as a Nikes, as an Indic knowledge system within our Shastras, various Shastras. How that has to be taught is discussed. Ayurveda is discussing Ayurvedic pedagogy. No medical college today does it. There is no teacher training for a university professor. Is there? Is there a BEd-like course for a university professor? For a junior college lecturer, is there a BEd-like course? For a degree, undergraduate teacher, is there a BEd-like course? For that, P.V. Narasimha Rao Garu, when he was the education minister, HRD minister, he started these academic staff colleges. Now they are being called as human resource centers in universities. But that's a refresher course. What they do is a refresher course in those academic staff colleges. But there is no pedagogy training for higher education in India, even for academic departments, science departments or social sciences or humanities. They go abroad. Even abroad, there is no pedagogy training. Going abroad itself, that Sthala Mahatmya of abroad, the Kshetra Mahatmya, the Punya, just by landing on the foreign white man's land, they get a feeling that, oh, now I am pedagogically trained for being a university professor. So, this is the feeling of Sthala Mahatmya. We have many of the Indians today, when they get an opportunity to go abroad or return from abroad, earlier there used to be a ritual of worshipping a Kashi returned person. If you go to Kashi, have darshan of Vishwanatha, Kala Bhairava, come back, people, all the street people used to come and touch your feet. And there was a dog worship at that time, because dog is considered to be Bhairava's form, Kala Bhairava's form. This place is also a Kala Bhairava place. You know that Mahakal is Kala Bhairava only. So now when people return from United States, there is this Kashi worship. Oh, did you visit? Oh, thank you. That's such a good opportunity. That is the BEd for university professors. Just visit. Give a talk at Harvard. Not even Harvard, some American university. Give a talk. That is your BEd. But nonsense. That can never be any pedagogical training. So there are so many gaps in the contemporary view of pedagogy and education. Indica is committed to fill all those gaps. This is the beginning. Indica is planning to start a Mahagurukula at Jadcherla, which is a place close to Hyderabad, where Indica is going to be a teacher education university only. We will be training higher education teachers, not school teachers. School teaching BEd already there. So इतना चल रहा है ना, हम उंगली क्यों रखना है इसमें? तो हम यूनिवर्सिटी एजुकेशन के बारे में सोचेंगे, अंडरग्रेड एजुकेशन, जूनियर कॉलेज एजुकेशन, particularly from an IKS point of view. And for all those teachers in teacher education, we'll give them a first-hand experience of Gurukula training in Shastra, in Sthapatya, in Natya, in Sangeeta, in Ayurveda, all our traditional systems. That will be a Mahagurukula. So this conference is a prelude to our future vision in pedagogy and teacher education. So with these few words, many words, I will stop here. I will ask Sahana Singh ji to share her co-curating welcome with all of you. Thank you.